right, let's talk about functions in this refresher course. This will be the fourth one we've done here, and I'm going to switch out of using a playground file because writing functions in those playgrounds is just, I don't know, bafflingly bad. I don't know, line formatting doesn't really work out. It's not highlighting things like it should. So we're going to go over here and just play with the Sprite Kit game template, and you can always, if you're playing around on your own, go over here to New Project, just click on iOS and Game, and you'll end up in the same spot where I'm at, Game Scene File, and get rid of just pretty much everything on down to, we don't even need the update statement. So basically, you're just looking at your basic class over here, and to start typing this, let's put in here, do something, okay, and then that's our function call, all right, so we just write down here, do something, and print this out. Oh, you know what? I mean, we don't even really need to test this, but basically, there you got it. So if you want to test that on your own, and hit run over here, it's gonna tell you hi, okay, in the output window over here, which is currently getting hidden, but you'd have to run it to see this. But trust me, that is going to work. Now, what if we want to pass in some values to this? So what we do over here is, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could say num int. So basically it's expecting, this function is expecting us to pass in an integer over here. All right, so 50.1, that's not good. 50, that's good, right? And then forever in the scope of this do something function, we can use this variable num over here, okay? Now, keep in mind that if we tried to reference it outside of this function, you can't do that. Okay, but as long as we're inside of here, num is going to equal 50. Okay. Now, if you can be a little slick about this, you can put an underscore right here, and if you do that, then you don't actually have to put num in there, right? So if you just kind of always know, hey, this function, I know I'm always going to be putting a number in here. You don't have to make me write num every time. You can do that, all right? Not a problem at all. We could also put in here other values. So let's say like amount. Again, we could use an integer type. And now, of course, over here, we've got to change the function call. So that's going to now be amount, let's say 20, all right? And if we wanted to multiply those two numbers, well, that's, we can do something like that. We can say amount, print, num times amount, right? So what's 50 times 20,000, right? We could return a value out of this too. So let's say, I guess probably the easiest thing to look at initially would just be to return another integer out. So what you could do is you could just say return, right, num times amount. Of course, now our function call is a little messed up because result of call is unused, right? So we want to say something like let multiplied amount int equals that, right? So now your multiplied amount is going to equal whatever you put in here. Of course, you could also just do the multiplication here, but this is all just hypothetical stuff, Yes, that makes a little bit more sense, right? Just go. But let's do this. Let's see. Within range, how about something like that? So we'll change this to being a bool value, okay? And if you want to print this out, say print within range. Now what we would do is we could do some sort of test inside of here. All right, so instead of returning an integer value, we're going to return a bool value, okay? So we're not even really getting back out the multiplied amount of this. What we want to know is just basically a true or false. So I'll just say in here var, let's just say the result. This is going to be a bool, and we'll say the result is false for right now, which it might switch to true depending on what we do inside of here, right? But right now we've kind of satisfied this where we're saying, hey, you're going to return a bool value, and that's exactly what you're doing over here. Don't worry about these little warnings. It's basically just telling you haven't done anything with that variable yet. So we can say if num times amount is greater than 900. Then in that case, the result is going to equal true. Okay. And you don't really need to do an else statement in here that makes the result false, because you've already established that it's just initially going to be false anyway. So basically, as long as, only if this is over that amount do we switch to being true. And then if you were to test this out, of course, 50 times 20, that's going to be 1,000, which means that that amount is over 1,000, and you're switching the result over there to true. And I think that's probably about all we need to do to talk about just the basics of functions. I'd say one of their main things is really just organizing kind of the flow of what's going on in your game or app. I'm shot in the dark guess here, but I would say maybe only 50% of the functions I write actually pass in any parameters at all. A lot of the times I'm just basically doing things like let's say like fetch property list data, right? So then I'd have a function for that. Okay. Start interface, whatever, and then you'd have another function for that. Show, whatever. Now keep in mind that these are all running through here incredibly fast. It's not like there's any sort of kind of pause between the two of these things, but it just helps you, the programmer, kind of be able to go, okay, do I need to go back and deal with my property list? Okay, well, I'll go find it. Oh, here's the function that calls that. Skip down to here. And obviously, once you've got a project that's got thousands of lines of code, possibly spanning, different Swift files, just for one class, then it's more important that you start organizing things and breaking it down like that so you can find it later. I mean, you are kind of like your greatest enemy in programming. If you can't open up a project 3 weeks later and remember where anything is. So anyway, let me just get rid of this ugly red warning over here. So that's pretty much all we need to talk about with functions for right now. So I'll see you in the next video.